Noel Mulcahy and Luke Bourke of FLOWARE. Welcome to Irish Startup TV.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Guys, would you like to tell us a little bit about the business?
So FLOWARE is a company that helps small and medium-sized businesses to be better because we give them business modules that the large corporates use but at a price that they can afford, and we do that by using the cloud.
What does the software do?
Our software is cloud-based and it solves traditional business problems or challenges that many companies face, but it does it in a cost-effective manner in the cloud, and it doesn't require significant capital investment. We can work on a subscription basis to try and get to the root of those problems, come up with solutions that work for the client with as little friction as possible, just to try and help them basically concentrate on their core activity, which is running their own business, and to not worry about potential IT problems that they could face. We like to try and take those problems away and basically move those processes into the cloud.
So essentially what we are is we're an enterprise class IT department that small businesses can outsource their IT requirements to us. And we'll give them enterprise class modules, business modules, to help them run their businesses more efficiently and effectively.
What inspired the business?
So we've been going for about 12 months now. In the first 8 months, we were talking to small and medium-sized business owners, looking at what they were doing and how they were doing it. And what we found was that most of them had an accountancy package that they were using for invoicing, a bit of P&L. They had a few spreadsheets that were knocking around, but they didn't know whether they were operating off the right spreadsheet or not, and how to find it when they needed it. And they had lots and lots of paperwork. And that's kind of like the opposite to if you look at the large corporate multinationals, how they operate. They'll have a very systemized approach, so they'll systemize, automate and measure as much as possible. And up until now, the costs associated with being able to do that enterprise modules was prohibitive for small businesses, but using the cloud and a subscription-based model, we can now make it affordable for small businesses to have access to those type of tools to make them more efficient and more effective in their running of their operation.
It's actually it's hugely important, and I'm afraid I fell foul of this technology just in the last few days, because Irish Startup TV is a new business as well. It's not just providing the interview space, but it's also now providing consultancy services. And I found it was super difficult to find an e-invoicing service that I had to go to a well-known company, and I had to have their accountancy package, and I also had to have a separate invoicing section. So suddenly, before I get going at all, I'm buying a lot of software just to do a fairly straightforward task.
Let alone you're buying a lot of software, you have a lot of different people involved in that, and it becomes extremely complex, and you'll probably find that you're entering the same information into 4 or 5 different computer systems.
That's exactly it.
Whereas with our system, you enter it in once, the system does the process, and it integrates with your existing account packages, because small businesses can't afford to get rid of what they have in the past because they've already put the money into it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to upgrade what they have to make it a bit better for them and make everybody's life a little bit easier.
I've met a really interesting range of entrepreneurs here today at Nexus at the University of Limerick, and there's been a great range of ages as well. And what I'm learning from your colleagues is that there's a kind of a youthful enthusiasm, and then there's a sage wisdom aspect. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, definitely. There's and that's good, because diversity gives innovation, and through innovation then you can get wealth creation. So certainly being in a hothouse like here, in an incubation centre like here, where you have complete diversity of nationalities, age, range, backgrounds and stuff like that, you can get different viewpoints and different angles, and people frame things differently, and obviously that helps you then as a business to expand and scale your business and bring it forward as well.
How did you go about building a software company? Are you technologists?
Well, I suppose I'm on the technical side, and Noel then is on the sales and business development side, and it's largely in response to customer demand. What the problems that we would have discussed, business problems we would have discussed with our clients, we knew they could be solved, but they needed to be solved at a certain price point. and with as little complexity, just to try and simplify that problem-solving process. And we basically designed with that in mind, and it will deliver, or are delivering with that in mind as well. So it's very, very customer-focused, customer-centric, and just to make it as painless as possible for the customers.
So all our software modules are designed to fit the customer's business as opposed to the customer's business fitting our software. So everything that we're doing is driven by the customer. They're saying that they're fed up of having to input the same information 5 times into 5 different systems. They're fed up of having late data or poor data, or the quality of the data because someone wrote a 2 on a piece of paper, and is it a 2 or is it a 7, and obviously they can't be sure. And once we started hearing that back, and we knew because we had experience before in providing similar types of applications but to large corporates, that if we could do it at a price that small businesses could afford, which we can, that would be a benefit to them. And we started developing our software stack then in-house with ourselves and through partners as well, obviously. Like, so we have Microsoft 365 or Google for Work, etc. Because obviously they're the industry leaders in relation to mail and documents. And then you just layer it on top what you need then on top of that, whether it be document management or workflow automation or measurement tools or whatever the case may be, and then integrate it with your accounts package.
It's fantastic. I think it's kind of interesting to see that as the kind of, I suppose, the startup world and the software startup world is maturing, and if we take, we'll say, the dot-com bubble, that was 15 years ago, and you've got a lot of large companies that you could be argued you're competing with. But I could see how you could do very well because of the flexibility that you allude to. Whereas a lot of the tech companies have become so big that they have fixed processes and there's no way of deviating from that set standard. Whereas you're offering more of a customizable approach to your technology.
To a point, yes. And what we found as well is the larger software companies that our clients would traditionally have experienced can have a one-size-fits-all approach. So it has been designed with maybe North American market in mind, or UK or EU, and it's not specifically tailored to an Irish SME, and that's one of the challenges that we've had to respond to. And it's also that flexibility allows us to personalize that relationship and to build stronger relationships with our clients, and they come back for more. So it's something that we've identified, and it's something that we can move forward with.
What we found when we went out to the market and we asked what was our customers' experience when they went looking for these type of products and these type of solutions, was that on the one side, the larger people that were providing them were cost prohibitive. They only wanted to deal with companies that had maybe 1,000 employees up. And on the other side then were companies that were there in the market for them, but they had a fixed product, so you had to do your workflow, your work process the way that company had configured their system, and there was no real configuration. And if you wanted to change that, again, it was a lot of money again. So what we've decided to do is that we just offer a subscription-based service. We go in, so there's no capital up from costs. There's only a subscription-based service, and obviously it's more economical then for the small businesses to be able to afford it.
And how do you bill? Is it by direct debit mandate or by credit card?
It's a direct debit mandate monthly.
And we've all, just to follow on that, as the cloud has evolved and the offerings from the various cloud providers have matured, we've been able to build those benefits into our offering. So it's basically, we're just pushing the benefits down the chain. There is an intermediary with the appropriate knowledge on the configuration and the integration side. So it's a win-win for us, win-win for the cloud vendors, and also for the client.
Super.
What we see in the Irish market as well is there's a lot of companies that were traditionally in other markets and now we're trying to get into the medical market or markets that would have a lot of regulation, and they don't have that experience of it, having to comply to regulation, whether it's ISO or FDA, etc. And it's happened because of the recession mainly, that they were selling into the construction market, and now to survive they need to sell into different markets, and we can help them transition to those different markets because their business processes and everything that they need to do needs to comply with regulation, and we can help with that as well. So we can offer a consultancy based service, so we're more or less a one-stop shop solution for them, both both on the consultancy side for transition and to make sure that your business processes are effective and efficient and complies to a standard. And on the other side, then we can layer that with technology so it's repeatable.
On the note of the regulation piece, do you think that it's difficult to operate as an SME in Ireland from a regulatory standpoint?
It depends on the environment that you're operating in. And for example, you tend to have the right people in the right sector, and there is an overhead when operating in the medical or the food sector where you must understand your legal obligations, and the tools you're using should also be fit for purpose. We traditionally would work with those people with a vested interest in the sector. They're responsible, and we want to provide them with the appropriate tools so that they can fulfill their needs.
Where are your customers? Are they primarily Irish-based SMEs?
So at the start we're looking for Irish-based SMEs because obviously it's easier to support here. We are a new company, we're only going for about a year, and what we want the next stage in our development is to start looking at the UK market and then further afield.
You mentioned the FDA, so going back to the regulatory piece, how challenging do you think is it going to be to scale into the UK and then into the US? Are there going to be similar or different challenges?
Some of the challenges are, I suppose, repeatable because the compliance requirements, while they might be, I suppose, sourced in the US, FDA approval or international in terms of ISO, quite often they're repeatable in different jurisdictions with, I suppose, minor tweaks and adjustments, but the spirit and the essence of the compliance is broadly the same. So given that there's a lot of experience built up in Ireland in regulation and in regulated both on food, pharma and other sectors, those compliance requirements can be replicated elsewhere, or the spirit of them can be easily replicated elsewhere.
It's not just industry compliance as well, like FDA, etc., but there's also efficiency compliance like Six Sigma and Lean, and we can help with that side too.
Fantastic. Where to next, guys?
Onwards and upwards. We think.
Any significant milestones on the roadmap?
Well, what we want to do is we want to increase our presence in Ireland. Obviously, we're picking up just over a customer a week at this stage. Okay. So obviously, we want to increase that rate. We want to do more with our existing customers because all our products are and what we're developing is driven by our customers. Okay. And their need and their requirement for what they're doing in their business. So at the moment what we're doing is we're talking to existing customers and new customers that are coming on board to see how we can make our system even better for them. And hopefully we'll start adding in maybe some gamification, etc. into the system. And I know that's kind of a big buzzword and a tweak word at the moment, but we're trying to figure out how we can do that as well. Information's
all binary code floating around the internet, but if you can make it super easy and pretty and meaningful in the retrieval of that information, it's always going to be a positive.
It is. Spreadsheets are a generic piece of software, so it's like going to a handyman or a handy person to fix, or you need to go to a crafts person depending on the product or depending on what you're trying to do. And while spreadsheets are great for starting off and getting running, it doesn't allow you to scale very easily because you've got to keep repeating what you're doing. And so a lot of times then you get into what people call Excel hell, and we want to take you away from that.
Yeah, 25 documents linked to 25 other documents.
So we want to take you into cloud heaven.
Fantastic.
It's a reality.
And for the small business, especially a problem.
A problem, but also for people to scale. If you were, I suppose, if you were dependent on what was initially a poor process which wasn't meant to scale, and you've been successful and grown, it's difficult to leverage that into something that's more sustainable.
So if I can just give you a quick story of a company that we were dealing with that had a similar system or a similar experience like that. So they were using Excel to bring on their order management, and their clients were giving them an order number and description of the parts and etc. like that, but their clients' order part numbers were different for their products than their own, obviously, because that's their part number. So they had to be transcribed from their client's customer part number to their part number, and that was done through an Excel sheet, and it was manually looked up with a matrix, and obviously it's ad hoc, you have to do it every time you get it in, and it's extremely laborious and it's not a very nice job to do. So what our system has done is we programmed in the logic to mapping the two part numbers in the background, so when the order processing person puts in the customer and then puts in the customer's part number, that will automatically map and bring up the customer, bring up their part, and it'll fill it in. So it's automating that whole process and obviously saving them a whole lot of time. Whereas with Excel, you couldn't do that, you know, quite easily.
What's your go-to market strategy? How are you acquiring customers, and what advice might you have based on that experience for other startups?
Okay, so at the moment what we're doing is all our customers are word of mouth. So we'll go in and we'll provide a solution for a customer, we'll fix the problem that they have, and they're telling their friends, to be honest, and that's kind of getting us going at the moment.
And then you're learning from that,
and then we're learning and we're going
feeding back into the product.
The other side, what that we're using is we're doing a lot of content marketing, or we're doing some amount of content marketing, so that's blogging, etc. Looking on LinkedIn, Twitter, and seeing and LinkedIn groups and seeing what's happening there. And certainly for anybody that's out there and that's starting a business and that's looking to seeking to find a market for their business, or who's their market for their business, I would definitely recommend doing that and just talking to what they think is their potential customer, and they'll soon find out what's what with it.
Fantastic.
Existing contacts.
Leveraging the network.
Yeah. Leveraging the network, and it's actually a reality. It's something, until you have to do it, it's something you don't really. Do
you think it's difficult for Irish people to ring up their pal and say, will you get me a bit of business?
I think Irish people might have a problem asking. They'll talk, and they'll have a chat, but they're very slow to get to the point in what it is they want.
Yeah, on the money side, we don't like talking about money, do you?
No. So in terms of closing, yes, probably we could. Could probably be a bit better at getting to the point. I think
a bit more honesty in closing. I think it's very easy for people to ring person A or person B and say, look, this is what I'm doing, can I come in and have a chat and see if it would be of help to you there.
And how do you define honesty in closing?
Well, sometimes you'll get people to say, look, we would really love it, however now is not the right time.
Okay.
Because we have some
don't
projects
leave me hanging,
on.
bro.
Yeah, exactly. So we have some projects on, or it's holiday time or whatever. But is that a polite no or is it a real no? I think sometimes you're better off getting the correct feedback to say, no, we're not going to take on your product because of X, Y, and Z. And if it's a fixable,
you can learn from it.
It's a learning experience. Whereas if it's a polite no and they're saying we're not going to take on your product now, but we will in 3 months' time, and in 3 months' time becomes another 3 months, and then everybody forgets we even asked, then there's no learning from that.
So guys, what's next on the roadmap?
So hopefully what we want to do is, most of our customers are on the west coast at the moment, so obviously of Ireland. So the target market, we want to expand our presence on the island of Ireland. So our next is to go to the rocky road to Dublin, I suppose, and see what we can do up there, and see how we can help companies up there and bring them up to speed and make them a bit more efficient and a bit more effective, hopefully.
Fantastic. Well guys, look forward to seeing you in Dublin soon. Please come and look us up if you're coming up.
Will do.
Thanks a lot.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, man.
For your time.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.